And after that, knight to f6 by Firouzja, and now Nodirbek goes for the fried liver attack, which is knight to g5, directly eyeing that weak f7 pawn. So to defend this, and guys, since this knight is attacked, so that's why knight to a5, attacking the bishop. And guys, this complete setup is known as the Polario defense. And after that, he gives a check from b5 square. Firouzja defends with and now Firouzja goes for knight to d5, creating a discover attack on the knight. So to defend this, h4. And now black can consider the move h6 so that he can attack this knight, but instead Firouzja focuses on development. He goes for queen to c7. And guys, after that, bishop to d6. And now look at this. Firouzja is now creating multiple threats, like he can push f5 in future, and also knight to d5 is possible, and also bishop to g4, pinning the knight. So to tackle this, first of all, Nodirbek jumps his knight to e4, attacking the bishop. And basically Firouzja pushes f5, kicking the knight. So that's why knight takes d6 check, queen takes d6, and since Firouzja is now threatening to push e4, so that's why bishop to e2 by Nodirbek. And now it's better for black to just push e4, attacking the knight, because let's say after this knight goes to, let's suppose, on d4, now black can castle, and then he can continue to push these e and f pawn further, launching a massive pawn storm on the king's side. But after bishop to e2, here Alireza goes for c5, which is an inaccuracy because it weakens the b5 and d5 square. So Nodirbek immediately takes benefit of this by giving a check from this b5 square. And Firouzja defends with the bishop. Bishop takes g7 check, and obviously black can't capture this bishop with the queen because of this undefended e5 pawn. So that's why Alireza recaptures with the king. And after that, d3, preparing to push c4. But before that, Alireza, advances the e pawn further. He is now attacking the knight. Okay, so since white is now threatening to give a check from g4 square, which simultaneously targets the g7 pawn, so that's why to stop this, Alireza slides his king to c7. And finally, Nodirbek castles. And since this knight on a5 is not doing anything special, so that's why Firouzja brings it back on c6. And since this pawn is targeted, so Alireza defends it with the king. And as you can see, now he is also targeting the bishop. So that's why bishop to d2, targeting the knight on b4. And now the question is, what if black captured this a2 pawn with, let's say, knight takes a2? And guys, if this happens, now white can play g4 check. And after king to g6, rook takes e4. And you can see what's coming next. So that's why after bishop to d2, Alireza instead goes for rook to e8. He basically defends the e4 pawn. And since, as you can see, white is now threatening to give a discover check, so Alireza brings it on g4, which is a slight inaccuracy. Instead, king to g6 might be the better option, which also guards the g7 pawn, because now Nodirbek plays bishop to c3. He instantly attacks the g7 pawn. And guys, in this position, Nodirbek plays a beautiful move, knight to e1, asking for a knight exchange because previously black was preparing to play rook to e2 so that he can build some pressure over the white's position. But after knight to e1, now this knight on d3 is targeted. So Alireza brings it back on e5, and after that, rook to d5. As you can see, now Nodirbek pins this knight, so that's why rook takes d5, c takes d5, and you can see now white has successfully created a passed pawn. Okay, so as you can see, now rook takes d5 is not possible due to knight to f4 fork. So that's why Alireza brings his rook back on e8. Okay, so now Nodirbek advances the d pawn further, which attacks the rook. But guys, in this position, Alireza finds a tricky move. I mean, he goes for rook to e5. And guys, basically here Firouzja sets up a trap. I mean, if now white promotes to let's say to a queen. This is now losing because of knight to e2 check. Only move is king to h1, and after that rook to h5 check. Only move is queen to h4, and then rook takes h4, and that will be a mate. But guys, after rook to e1, yeah, so let me go back. There is only one move. Yeah, so in this position there is only one move which can save this game for white. So I just want you all to pause the video and just try to find the only winning move for white. And guys, in this position, basically Nodirbek finds a god level move which is knight to e4 check. And in this position, Alireza Firouzja resigned. This is because after rook takes e4, d8 equal to queen, and if now black gives a check, king to h1, rook to h4 check. And basically the main idea of this sacrifice is to deflect the rook from the 5th rank. And as you can see, since this rook is now on h4, so white can just take on h4 with queen takes h4. And after king takes h4, in the end you can see white is 2 pawns up and also a full rook. What an amazing god level game by Nodirbek Abdusattorov. Just imagine he destroyed Alireza Firouzja with a beautiful sacrifice. Someone who just dominates the tournament. That's amazing, literally amazing. Like this video and I will see you in the next one. This is your host Bison signing off. Bye bye.